Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Fantastic Four Volume 2, Issue number 3, cover dated January 1997. So this is Heroes Reborn. This is Jim Lee's cover, inked by Scott Williams, a very colourful cover, and the eye goes straight to the imposing central figure of Captain America. So for me as a reader of Uncanny X-Men, and in particular an admirer of Lee's work on issue 268, the classic story featuring the first meeting between Wolverine and Captain America in 1941, I was really looking forward to seeing Jim Lee draw Captain America again, and he did not disappoint on this cover, and inside this issue does a really good job on Steve Rogers. And the thing about it is that we're looking at Rob Liefeld's redesign of Captain America's classic Jack Kirby costume. Only a little small tinkering with the details of the costume, but the most salient difference is the eagle on the captain's face mask instead of A. And just looking at how Jim Lee has rendered it there, it works. I do prefer the A, but Jim Lee makes the eagle look pretty decent on this cover image. And of course we've got the Thing there looking pretty cool, and we've got Thor, and again we've got Rob Liefeld's redesign of Thor's costume. And here in the foreground we've Namor, and he's got Sue Storm by the arm. So what is going on? We've got no cover caption, so really we have to infer from this that the Avengers have arrived in order to take on Namor, who is waging war on New York City. And so that's what we see burning here in the background. Well, let's open this one up to the first page. And we have a pretty cool anchor image there of Thor flying past the Statue of Liberty. We've got a nice upshot on the Statue of Liberty there. Probably Jim Lee using some photo reference for that. And we have a lot of dialogue on this page. I'm not going to go through all of this dialogue. A lot of it is catch up. Just the opening of it is Avengers Battle Log, New York City, 0800 hours. And that reminded me of the fact that had Fabian Nicieza scripted this, and that wouldn't have been such a bad thing, to be honest with you, one of his little devices was it would never be on the hour. It would be something like 0802 minutes or 3 minutes or something like that. He was always doing that kind of thing over on X-Force. So here's the creative team here right beside Mjolnir. Jim Lee, plot and pencils. Brandon Choi only offering the script there, even though he'd been co-plotter on issue number 1. Scott Williams credited with the inks, except pay attention, just look beneath Williams' name. We have a team of backup inkers. So we've got JD, that's John Dickinson, Alex Garner and Tom McWeeney helping out with the inks. So the question is, they're getting kind of full credit there really. Their names obviously in smaller type size than Scott Williams, but what are they doing? Are they doing background inks? Are they doing certain pages? It's hard to know from the credits at the very least, but I think, if I'm not wrong, that Scott Williams did the figure work on all the pages in this, and that these guys were doing background inks, if I'm not mistaken. So here we have an interesting little line here. As I look into Lady Liberty's eyes, I can only pray that I will always be worthy and do her proud. So this is Captain America's is doing the entries into the battle log, and here he is at the controls of the Quinjet, and there's some news reporting going on there. Look at the two news reporters, both wearing the same trench coats. So there must be one shop where all TV news reporters get the same coat. In any case, like with their dialogue, basically just catches us up on Namor's invasion of New York City. Now let's turn the page here and see there's more catch up on this particular page too. Regarding Nick Fury. Shield is on site, and he and the Fantastic Four have been deputized by Shield in order to tackle Namor, and that's what they're doing and we're doing at the end of the previous issue. And here we have our reveal of Captain America. So he's picking up his shield, sliding it on to his forearm. He says here, "Now I'm ready." So we've got a nice enough upshot on Captain America there. One thing about the redesign of his uniform or costume is it doesn't have the scales on it. It doesn't have that at all. So the what would I call it? Like the material is kind of shiny, spandex type material, different from Jack Kirby's one with the chainmail. And I think I prefer the chainmail version, to be honest with you. But not when it's overly rendered like John Cassidy would do. I don't like that, but just a little bit more subtle. That's what I like. So there's a little bit of back and forth here between the pilots on the Quinjet. So that's interesting. So there's human pilots of the jet here, and one of them says, "Captain America, as a kid, my grandfather used to tell me stories about seeing you in action back in the big one. So before we go in, sir, I just want to say that it's an honor to serve with you." So what does Captain America have to say to that? Well, he says, "The honor is mine, Lieutenant, to serve alongside America's fighting men and women. And now let's get a look at what we're up against." And so here we go, up against Giganto, this huge mutated whale creature that is under the mostly control of Namor. He set it loose. It's rampaging around Lower East Side Manhattan, so you get a sense of the scale there. Thor flying along with the Quinjet. "We've got to divert its attention," says Captain America, and Thor says, "Leave that to me, my friend." So now we get an open border panel here with Thor throwing Mjolnir towards Giganto. "I shall smite the beast," he exclaims, "with my enchanted hammer Mjolnir." Okay, now here's a problem with the dialogue in this book, and it's a problem that anyone tasked with scripting an issue of a comic has to come up against. How do you convey this information to a new reader? Well, I never like it when it's shoehorned into the dialogue spoken by the characters. Why on earth would Thor utter a sentence like this? "My enchanted hammer Mjolnir." Why would he say that? Captain America knows that. So better to put that in a third person caption. Just have Thor throw the hammer and have the third person caption explain that it's enchanted, that its name is Mjolnir, and so on and so forth. So what happens here is it really doesn't make much of a difference to Giganto. Uh-oh, Cap, our attacks didn't make a scratch on that creature, but we've definitely got its attention now. So then it blasts with this, what is it? Is it fire? Green fire that comes out of its mouth? So Thor's costume looks like it's shredded by that. And one of the jets here lost its left stabilizer, so it's going down. That's the one that the captain's aboard. "Keep us clear of any civilian bystanders," he says. "I like the little Dutch angle on that panel. Keeps it interesting." "I'll do my best, sir," says the lieutenant. Down they go, crashing onto the ground, bouncing. And here is Namor. He's down on the ground. What's he got to say? Now listen to how stilted, stiff, and hammy is this dialogue. "Fools! Your paltry weapons are useless against the great whale Giganto, spawned by the poisonous pollutants that you humans have for so long discarded into the oceans. He shall now serve as my instrument of retribution to avenge the deaths of innocent Atlanteans who have perished because of your toxic waste." Very long-winded, Namor, eh? So let's turn the page and keep going with this story. Now, it is the Fantastic Four, is the comic after all. So Sue Storm appears out of thin air, as Namor says, and she starts pleading with Namor. "Namor, please, you must put an end to all this senseless destruction. I'm sure that there's a peaceful way to resolve our differences," says Sue. So Namor is struck by her what? Not what she's saying to him, but her beauty. "Your courage is matched only by your beauty, human," as he touches her face, a bit forward of him. "Continue, Namor shall hear what you have to say." So she starts introducing herself, and then Reed, he's a clever fellow, but a bit of a bonehead arriving in here to attack Namor. "Take your hands off her," he exclaims. "What treachery is this?" says Namor. And so Namor easily dispenses of Reed Richards, and Reed says, stretched too far too quickly. So he's just getting to know and be comfortable with and skilled in the use of his new powers. The Human Torch arrives, starts blasting around, fire blasting around Namor. That's a nice shot of the torch there. That's very well done by Jim Lee. Heads up Gilman. He shouts, "Let's see how tough you are away from the ocean." And so we learn that Namor is weakened by the flames that the Human Torch has cast around him, and also by the fact that he's away from water. But he says, "I'm far from being defeated, especially when I have you." Look at him with his hands on the fire hydrant. What's he going to do? We know what he's going to do. Turn the page. He rips off the fire hydrant from the ground, so the jet of water shoots up and douses the Human Torch's flame. And now, who comes up except for the Thing for round 2? So Namor dropped the Thing into the river, but now the Thing is back. That's a nice shot there, nice lighting on the Thing. "Hey, fish breath," he says, "remember me? Well, I'm here for a rematch, except this time we're on my home turf." And yeah, like I was saying, Namor is weakened. Water, my strength slowly returning, but I need more time. He needs contact with water in order to have his super strength. So that's a little Achilles heel of his. But then this is an interesting little bit of a character moment where somebody throws a bunched up can at the back of the Thing's head. And it's this crowd of yobs. Go back to where you came from, sea scum. So they've mistaken him by virtue of his monstrous appearance as one of the Atlanteans, and they start attacking him. And the Thing says, "Get back, you idiots. I'm one of the good guys." But now Namor's got his strength back. So fairly decent anchor image there of him looking powered up again. And he basically gives the Thing a left hook that knocks the Thing all the way into this particular building and through it even. So, ow, 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 all the way in. That's a nice little sequence. I like that. That's a very good anchor image there. I have given praise to Jim Lee on previous reviews of issues number 1 and 2 for his version of the Thing. I've said before, the Thing is a difficult character to draw. Only a very few artists are able to do him right. And I think that Jim Lee does a very good job on the Thing. Deserves credit for that. What do we see here down the bottom of the page except for Mjolnir, and it's making its way towards the back of Namor's head. But, like, is it moving in slow motion? No one can challenge the power of Namor. A boastful claim indeed, villain. Yeah, this isn't handled well in terms of the script. We need a lot less words there. We need to have a sense that this is happening in a split second. Let's turn the page, get past the ads. So it looks like Mjolnir does hit him in the back. And now we get a nice anchor image of Namor on the ground and Thor grabbing Mjolnir with his left hand. "I shall answer thy call, Namor. Let us see how a son of Atlantis fares against the son of Odin." So Namor recognizes him. Thor? So it is true. You walk amongst mankind once again. So Lee implying that the Golden Age occurred in the Heroes Reborn continuity. "Heed my warning, God of Thunder," says Namor. "You would do well to stay out of this matter. And what does Thor reply? He says, "I cannot. As an Avenger, I've sworn to protect the lives of the innocent. Cease this madness, or thou shalt feel the power of my hammer once more." So Namor is not going to give in. He says, "You may be a god, but you stand alone. Even you cannot hope to defeat Giganto." And then from the dust, there appears Captain America, saying, "No Avenger ever stands alone, Namor. It's time we put an end to all this fighting once and for all. Old friend." So Namor recognizes him. "You? But that's impossible. It's been over 50 years since we last met. This is another trick." So this is, again, more of this reference to Marvel Golden Age continuity, the continuity of timely comics. And when Captain America and Namor and the original Human Torch fought the Nazis in World War II. So there's an implication that something along those lines happened in the past. "After all we've been through," says Steve Rogers as he pulls off his mask. "Together, you should know that I'm a man of my word, Namor, but maybe this will help to convince you." So he unmasks, and it confirms So it is you, Steve Rogers. Now, here in a side alley watching them are a couple of Atlanteans, Lord Krang, who showed up in the previous issue and who was a kind of a hawkish Atlantean, instigated Namor's attack on the surface dwellers in New York City. And here he is aghast. What? At the arrival of the Avengers and Captain America and Namor stopping the fight. This wasn't part of my plan, he says. Namor was to perish in the battle with the land dwellers. I like the design of the speech balloons for the Atlanteans. So they're in these seawater filled suits, and the little bubbles that are the tails of their speech balloons are interesting. Orthus, he says to his lieutenant, we must convince the others that Namor has been enthralled by the land dwellers and has turned against us, leaving us with no choice but to strike the final and fatal blow in this battle. Raise the tentacles, Orthus. So, Lord Krang is a traitor to Namor. And so there's intrigue now inserted into this little storyline. And then we get a weird switch of scene in the middle of the page, more or less. Elsewhen, Jackson, Wyoming. And we have this helicopter outside this house. And it turns out to be Ben Grimm's house. And he's having an homage brew there on the veranda. And Susan Storm has come to him. And because Project Excelsior needs a test pilot. So this is something that happened before issue number 1. But more importantly, she says to Grimm, I think Reed needs your help too. The two of you go back a long way. And Ben says, we've been down this road before and the answer's still no. Some things are just better left in the past. So she starts making a case there. I want to help, he says, but I can't because besides, I'm not a fighter jock anymore. This is my life now. It's quiet. I like it out here in the wilderness. So Susie continues making her case. Is this because of what happened to you in the war? No. Because I'd be your boss? No. Then what is it? Ever since the day Reed first introduced us, we've always been honest with each other, so why won't you talk to me? She asks him, and he says, I just can't. What are you so afraid of? She asks. And then he says very quietly that I may be falling for my best friend's girl. So Ben Grimm doesn't have a girlfriend, and it seems like he wants one. So anyway, in terms of what happened between them, he says, whatever problems I got, I'll just have to deal with them. So he's going to be the pilot. But then this memory, as it turns out, starts changing because Ben starts transforming. We see things from his point of view, starts transforming into the Thing. And Susan Storm morphs into, well, who could this be? And look at those eyes. It's Alicia Masters, also in the Heroes Reborn universe. Great full page image there of the Thing having been punched through the building into, as it turns out, an art gallery. And Alicia kneeling over him saying to her friend there, Cassie's finally coming around. So the friend there thinks Alicia is nuts. That thing's some kind of monster. We got to get out of here. Just take it easy, says Alicia. You're still a little disoriented to the Thing. So let's turn the page here. So we see that Alicia, just as she was in the original Marvel Universe, is an artist, a sculptor. She's got her own galleries there, Masters Galleries, New York, London, La Jolla. Is it pronounced La Jolla or La Jolla? California, which is where Wildstorm Studios was based. Rome as well. And here in the background, you've got the inkers doing their little graffiti tags and Jim Lee signing the wall there as well. So the Thing here, looking up at Alicia, get back, don't look at me. So he's still, traumatized by his monstrous appearance. But of course she's blind and she says, calm down, to her friend, I don't think he'll hurt me and you don't have to be afraid either. You see, I'm blind. So the Thing gets up, he says, holy Hannah, look at this place. You ladies shouldn't be here, especially when one of you is, he's about to say, blind. But the gallery has been turned into a field hospital from all of the injuries sustained by civilians and US Army trying to tackle the Atlanteans. And Alicia won't leave the gallery while there are injured people there. And she says to the Thing, I may be blind, but I'm not helpless. Besides, all of us have problems to deal with and obstacles to overcome in our lives. What's important though is to not allow them to control our lives. We've got to play the hand we've been dealt and make the best of it. So that's Alicia there, not at all interested in being a victim or being regarded as one. A very stoic philosophy that she's been given in that speech balloon. So the thing is listening to her the whole time, and she continues and says, I think that you need to realize that it's what's in here that really matters, as she touches his chest. And in your case, Mr. Grimm, I believe it's the heart of a hero. And that's correct. That's spot on in respect of Ben Grimm, the Thing. Ms. Masters, he says, and she tells him, be careful out there. Please, call me Ben, he says, and thank you. And now, she says, it's Alicia. Besides, what else are friends for, Ben? So Ben, now, he's in the market for a girlfriend. Is he going to get one? But what about Giganto? He's got to deal with that first. So I really like this sense of scale there. I like this thin vertical panel, the Thing in mostly silhouette. That's one of Jim Lee's devices. Just little details of his costume. The little trunks that he's wearing there, left open for colour. I like the sense of scale there with the jets flying around Giganto's huge head. The Thing gets an idea. So he calls Fury. Fury, this is Grimm. I got a plan for dealing with Giganto. Now listen. So of course, we're not going to hear what the plan is. We're going to have to find that out by continuing to read the story. And then meanwhile, back in the Lower East Side, we have a pretty nice shot of Captain America's back there. So Lee doing a lot of work on the back muscles. It looks good. The Fantastic Four arrive. Namor says, asks, have you lured me into a trap, Rogers? But Captain America says, stand down, Dr. Richards. Thor and I have the situation under control now. By the way, something to note about this is, of course, in the Marvel Universe, Steve Rogers sometimes has, Steve Rogers sometimes is his secret identity. But here in the Heroes Reborn universe, obviously everyone knows that Steve Rogers is Captain America. So it's known by the public. Now Namor starts feeling ill, and he goes unconscious and starts bleeding out his nose. And Lady Dorma says he must have contracted the plague. So Sue rushes over to catch him before he falls on the ground. There must be something we can do, she exclaims. What if we get him back to the ocean? Now this is an interesting little bit here in terms of what happens a couple of pages later. So Lady Dorma exclaims, unhand him. No human may touch his royal personage. Besides, it was your polluting of the waters that created this illness. So Sue says, or rather Namor says, enough, Lady Dorma, we must call off the advance. And it's Krang, I'm afraid I can't allow that, he says. And Namor now knows that he's been betrayed. So Krang uses this device to shoot Namor in the chest. So we get a nice anchor image here of Krang with his shock troops and his very stilted, hammy villain's speech. And with your demise, he says to Namor, no longer will a mongrel sit upon Triton's throne, but instead a true son of Atlantis. For I, Krang, the merciless, shall become king and lead the people of Atlantis forth to a new age of power and glory. So he's pretty upfront about being merciless. This guy isn't going to try and win hearts and minds when it comes to Atlantis. Look at these tentacle creatures here in the background. These are interesting. So, of course, the Avengers are on scene. Captain America says, then it's up to us to make sure that doesn't happen. Avengers assemble. There we have the Human Torch, and that gets repurposed for the corner box image there. So that's nice little detail. Let's continue with the story, get past the ads. Big anchor image here of Captain America and Thor taking on the Atlanteans and those tentacle squid creatures. So that's a pretty cool dynamic image there of Captain America punching out one of the Atlanteans and getting wrapped up in the tentacles there of the octopus squid creature. If we're going to bring an end to this war, he says, we've got to find a way to keep Namor alive and in one piece. So, Reed here looking to take care of Sue. Is she okay? She is. I like this panel here. Look at the size there of Giganto in the background. Krang says, now with the great whale under my control, feel the terrible might of Atlantis. Destroy them all, Giganto. So the Giganto looks like he's up for it. And now Lady Dorma changes her tune, right? Remember what she said earlier, no human hand can touch Namor. Richards, she exclaims, Namor's friend called you doctor. Can you provide medical assistance to the prince? So he can, but he's concerned about Sue. She says, I'll be fine, Reed, go help Namor. Now the lads here are looking up at Giganto. That's a nice shot of them looking up, gives you a sense of how big Giganto is. So Captain America says they got to pray for a miracle. And remember Ben Grimm, what's he up to? Well, in any case here, Reed says, yeah, look after Namor. Namor's unconscious now. And then the scene switches to elsewhere. And it's the Thing. And Nick Fury has come to meet him in a vertical takeoff and landing little jet there. Took you long enough, says the Thing. What you do, Fury? Fly it down yourself. So Fury here, disgusted with Ben's lack of respect. Little curse there, fighter jock. Well, I'm still not sold on this harebrained scheme of yours, but we're all out of time and options now. Get inside. But Ben has a different idea, so he pulls Fury out of the little craft, and so he ejects Fury from the craft, gets in it, takes it himself. Sorry about that, Nick, but you did your part. I'll take it from here. And just what the heck are you going to do? Asks Nick. And I like the little cartoon detail of the little kind of what would you call it? Like it's a cartoon device that indicates how miffed Fury is. This little squiggle, dark squiggle over his head. Interesting to see it. If I'm right, says Ben, so this is the plan. The quantum drives our only chance of stopping that mutated whale. So the quantum drive is from the prototype rocket that the Fantastic Four took up into space to investigate the anomaly. But the tricky part's going to be not wiping out the rest of the Big Apple. So here he is coming towards Giganto. He has Nick Fury's stogie there. And he lights it with the cigarette lighter. So that's interesting. With his huge fingers, how does he have fine dexterity for using a cigarette lighter that's designed for human-sized fingers? In any case, he does. So he's puffing away there. As far as I can tell, Giganto's only got one soft spot, which means I'm going to have to ram this baby down that sucker's throat. So that's the plan. Fury here is protesting with him. Finally, he gives in and says to Ben, good luck. Thanks, Nick. Do me a favour and tell the others. Forget it, he says. Time for me to get Giganto's attention. So he starts blasting at Giganto's head there. And then he's flying by Rosewood Memorial Hospital, and it's right inside there. That's a nice little transition. You've got Sue and Reed taking care of Namor. And he says here, I've managed to stabilize his vital functions, but it's difficult to make a definitive prognosis. What's puzzling about his condition is that the neurotoxin in his body isn't a man-made contaminant. It's a cleverly disguised compound derived from the venom of the deadly sea wasp. Okay, so this is Krang's doing. I've injected a series of antitoxins into Namor's system, says Reed, that should neutralize the lethal agent. So it's not from human pollutants. It is something that goes back to Krang and his treachery. So Namor comes conscious again. He grabs Reed by the throat. Of course, Sue tells Namor to stop it. Reed was only trying to help you. Namor, in disbelief, says, no, you tricked me before. But Lady Dorma comes in and says, Richard saved your life. It was Krang who deceived you, deceived all of us. So now Namor remembers, yes, I remember now. He seeks to usurp my throne, which is why we have to stop him, says Lady Dorma. Reed here coughing. Namor hasn't removed his hand from Reed's throat properly. But first you've got to help us stop Giganto. So Giganto's still on the loose. And Ben is getting closer. So that's a nice little detail. That little craft out there that Sue's looking at, Ben is in it, but she doesn't know that yet. So Nick tells the Fantastic Four, I'm afraid your buddy Grimm has already come up with his own solution to the problem. So now they're all patched in together, all on the same comm system. And Ben says, as he smokes on the cigar, playing our last card is what he's doing. Now talk to me, Einstein. If I reverse the polarity on the quantum drive and set the auto-destruct, and Reed fills in, it'll generate a massive phase implosion, Ben. But why? So of course we know why. He's piloting the little ship into Giganto's maw. I really like that image there. Sue's able to look out from the window. Get out of there, she screams, you'll be killed. And Ben here with that big hero's look on his face, enjoying himself. He says, you know, Susie, I'd be lying if I said the thought hadn't crossed my mind and it'd be the easy way out. But Uncle Jake didn't raise no quitter. But how does that align with the fact that he is bailing out from the little craft? The dialogue there needs to be reworked so that it makes a bit more sense and is more congruent with what we're looking at. So then we get a countdown here, all the way down to 1, and the ship goes into Giganto's maw. It explodes, but it's an implosion, so it doesn't wreck the buildings around. And the Human Torch is there to grab the thing, and they're safe. And now Namor, having recovered from the sea wasp toxin, gets his hands on a megaphone, of all things. And he puts the word out to the Atlanteans in the city. Heed my call, warriors of Atlantis. I order you now to lay down your arms and cease all hostilities against the land dwellers. We have all been misled by the deceit of Lord Krang, a traitor to us all who sought to usurp my crown in this destructive bid for power. So Krang there is undone. And look at him and his guys. They're all captured there hours later. So we're coming to the end here. Not much in the way of backgrounds on this page, as you can see. Lee under a bit of time pressure to get this one off to the printers in time. And now we have a little moment between Namor and Captain America. And we learn a little bit about their past, maybe. It was good to see you again, old friend. Only wish it could have been under better circumstances, says Namor as he salutes the captain. Rest assured that in the future I shall seek redress for my grievances through, and he pauses, more appropriate channels. So will the Atlanteans have a little seat at the UN in New York? I'm sure you will, says Captain America, Namor, and I'll do my part to make sure your voice is heard. The secrets from our past, like the existence of Atlantis, must be brought out into the open. As the times have changed, so must we, says the captain. So it's the 90s, it's the mid to late 90s, and there isn't going to be a secret in the Marvel Universe, the Heroes Reborn universe, of the existence of Atlantis. Now Namor, he's taking a little shine to Sue, kisses her hand, and look at Reed there looking on jealously. And this is the only funny line in this comic coming up here. I like this, right? So Namor says, as he turns over his head he turns looking over his shoulder at the Thing, as he's getting ready to dive into the Hudson there. Farewell, Ben Grimm. You proved to be a most worthy opponent, he says. It was my honor. And then the Thing interrupts him. The only funny line in the comic. The Thing says, yeah, just get out of here while I'm still in a good mood. I like that. There's something about that works. And then this also is pretty decent, where Johnny Storm gets no farewell. He says, hey, what about me? And then what's this popping around him? It's the news reporters with the cameras, the paparazzi. They're asking questions. How did you save New York? Can you stretch every part of your body? Is your skin really made of rocks? So now they love the Fantastic Four. Tell us, are you the newest members of the Avengers? Asks one of them. Avengers, says Johnny. Listen up, there's a new team in town, and it answers to the name Fantastic Four. So there we go. The origin of the Fantastic Four. Last page now of the 22 pages of story and art in this comic. 1 week later, they're on the cover of Premiere magazine. And we've got newspapers here in the background, Daily Bugle. We've got something about the Storm Foundation under investigation. Joseph somebody or other getting married there. Presumably some staffer in Wildstorm Studios. And here we see the Baxter building. And it's Jack Kirby's original design of the Baxter building with the launch there for the rocket on the side of it. Shield's investigating Storm Industries as well as Matthew Storm's sudden disappearance, but it looks as though the four of you are in the clear, says Nick Fury. Which is good, since you guys are the new toast of the town. Nice digs, he says too. From what I can tell, I'd say you're doing pretty well by this philanthropist, Baxter. And Reed says, Saul's an old friend of the family, Nick. I simply decided that now was an opportune time to finally take him up on his partnership offer. So, the Fantastic Four are financially funded by Saul Baxter, philanthropist. And Nick responds, well, the White House is so grateful for what you've done. It's decided to grant you all license to operate as officially sanctioned troubleshooters. I guess this must have been your lucky week. So there's no kind of moment where, I think we should have a page where the Fantastic Four have a sit down and say, well, what are we going to do now? Instead, it just is all assumed that they're going into the heroing business as officially sanctioned troubleshooters. Sue says, I doubt that luck had much to do with it, Nick. The president knows a surefire way to get re-elected when he sees it. He's a smart man. But we've also paid a heavy price for our newfound fame, she says. It wasn't easy for Johnny and myself to cut all our ties to the family business, though I must admit that launching our new enterprise will be exciting as well as challenging. So Susie, the businesswoman, sees the Fantastic Four as an enterprise rather than a solemn, heroic duty. That's intriguing, and I don't know 100% if I like the implication. It's coming out of Jim Lee's imagination. I don't know about it. It's a little bit too. I know what he's doing. He's thinking, I'm going to update this for the 90s. It's too hokey to have them simply say, let's be heroes with our powers. But the old Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko idea, really Steve Ditko in particular, with great power comes great responsibility. When you've got power, you have a duty to be moral in and kind of like protecting freedom and all of this kind of thing. Much better to have something like that rather than this, I feel. Anyway, well, I'll be keeping an eye on you guys. Is that a joke? An eye? Like because he's blind in one eye? Is that deliberate? Is that Nick Fury's dry humor, or is that Brandon Choi being a little careless there? Why doesn't that surprise me? That's the thing. And Johnny says, hey, speaking of spies, whatever happened to your man Wingfoot? And Nick simply says there, we still haven't been able to find him, so watch your backs. And now the last thing he says, as for you, Grim, don't you think I won't collect on that stogie you clipped from me from earlier? And this is weird. That's the end of the issue. Next, the Black Panther. No, we should have another page with a setup and a cliffhanger for the Black Panther. This is such a strange ending for the first storyline. We need something set up for the next. Maybe a shot of Doom, something. But great art, one or two, a handful of decent lines of dialogue. And there you go. So just add matter in the back here. There's no letters page in this particular issue. There was in number 2. There you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary of Jim Lee's Fantastic Four number 3. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.